I will just try to wrap it up by highlighting some of the major themes that we discussed in this roundtable. First, I want to thank Saula for really putting up this entire panel together. It flew very nicely. We started with a discussion about reading at the childhood level, moving to specific groups of people who are learning English as a second language, to the issue of content reading, moving away from reading just for the language itself, into the specifics of how to work especially in a Muslim context, and then to have a specific case study of the urban school that is definitely a unique model of an education in Muslim societies. Through all of this, through all those 5 different structures, I would call them, there seem to be some themes that were similar and strikingly interesting. Actually, I have to pick on a couple of things that I came from Kathleen and from you, Charlotte. Colette. I'm sorry. You had an appreciation for, even though you are facing difficulty in your situation and in your situation, but you highlighted, you said that people I was working with, they were curious and they wanted to learn and they were future oriented. You mentioned that people where you worked, they really had eagerness to learn, even though what education meant was different. But I think picking up on the positive elements, maybe prepared for creating innovative ways to how to work with those different audiences. I think that you highlighted, for example, that relationship was very important. It seems that the whole experience that you described, Kathleen, was beyond simply teaching people. It was about having them think about, when you read this, how do you relate it to your experience? How do you think of interactiveness, which I think runs through the 5 speakers. The concept of interactive that we started with here seemed to be a key element that ran through it. And interactive meant that it is not simply about just memorizing without comprehension, as you just said lately, or as was mentioned by Dr. Douglas, that we need to move the reading from just the reading in the language into the content and to understand how to read it and relate it to the topic. I think another important thing that came across was not one size fits it all. We cannot just assume that whatever we do in one place or in one context will work. It seems to be actually that what works for one child or for one person is not going to work for the others. Therefore, you need to be always agile and to know what will work for who and with what kind of skills. I find that what you brought, and then of course the concept of reading, which was the main theme of this roundtable, led us into other things. It wasn't just about readings. We kept the focus on reading, but reading led us to language, multi-language education, culture issues, biases that come in the readings and what we learn, using other forms of education, and is this useful or not, and the internet, and whether it's good or bad, the big question. I think it shows that the question of reading, and as integral as it is for education, for on any level, in all contexts and cultures, is critical, and that the neuroscience that we have and the research that is developing is going to help us to know how this can be used more effectively. But there is no escape from connecting reading to all the other dimensions that you mentioned, and to appreciate the variations and the diversity of the different groups that we'll be working with. I will stop at that, and I